Well, greetings and thanks for joining us on another episode of Lightbulb Moments. I see our guests have already been involved in a chat. Episode number 168 of Lightbulb Moments. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then also, this is a podcast. So whether you're listening to us live, you're listening to the podcast or YouTube, we're glad you're with us today. I'm Tom Kuhn. I'm hosting and curator of Lightbulb Moments. A light bulb moment is a sudden realization, enlightenment, or inspiration. And remember, you can't start a fire without a spark. So hopefully you'll get some sparks today. I'm sure you will because we have some great guests, repeat guests, sort of repeat guests, one sort of new guest. Anyway, I digress. At Qnity, we're here to take you from what's confusing, overwhelming, and complicated to a quicker and more intentional path towards prosperity. And to prosper, remember to manage your ATM, the three currencies we have in life: attention, time, and money. All of them are precious, and we certainly understand your time is precious. So thanks for spending your precious time with us today, however you're engaging with this information. We love hearing from you. Submit a light bulb moment of your own on the website, in the chat, reach out to me or whatever. We love light bulb moments. Today, we'll have special guests, Jess and Wynonna from Luscious and Co, and Will Simpson from Vish. All three with Jess and Will are repeat guests. We welcome Wynonna for the first time, which is wonderful. We'll get to them in a few minutes here. Check out recent episodes of Lightbulb Moments. Our last episode was all about gratitude. It was 2 weeks ago. And we went through a journal that we created and we make available. It is a gratitudes and accomplishment journal. Happens to be one of my favorite tools. And so that was an episode 2 weeks ago. Check that out. Our last guest before that was Jody Riveria, and she's based in Austin, Texas, boutique salon down there. Very unique individual, very unique model, and a great episode. Also, past episodes include January 30th with Jess and Liz from Luscious and Co. So certainly check that episode because earlier in the year, Jess and Liz were great guests. We had discussion about the great exploration and also some great things. And we also had Will on a little bit earlier this year. If my date has me right, it's April 15th. Then we talked about color trends, whatever. So those are some recent episodes that I think I recommend that tie into today's session. Lightbulb Moments is sponsored by Lightheart Sanders, Green Circle, and Forest. Thanks to the three of them for helping to sponsor Lightbulb Moments. Also, check out Erin's podcast, Money O2. She has some amazing guests and stories that are very money related. We have a current data project in process. Please participate and advocate for. It is a P&L study. This is a brand neutral, industry-wide P&L study. We have not systematically done a P&L study open to the public. In fact, we've never done it open to the public. It always was in the past with niche groups like 2 to 10. But this is really breakthrough information. It is our newest study. We encourage all of you to participate. It's super easy and it's super needed. There's a lack of comprehensive P&L benchmarks. This information is essential for decision-making. And it's a way to collaborate, and it's super easy and quick to participate. It's a very short survey, and it's a quick upload of a Excel file that literally anybody that has a little bit of background in QuickBooks can do in about 5 minutes. We could not have made it simpler, and we could have not made it more secure. We do work with an independent CPA firm that gets the data directly submitted to them. And I will tell you, I have started to see an early cut of the data, and it is fascinating. Things have changed, and a lot of stories out there about different things, but remember, data is what tells us true story. And this is an unprecedented way to have these companies that have agreed to do the data share help us together come up with better benchmarks so you can better run your business. Again, super simple process. The submission date has been extended. If you're on the fence or you haven't done it yet, go to the webpage. We'll put it in a link. You can find out more about it. We got some great sponsors. Lightheart Sanders is not only a sponsor, they're also the CPA firm that we've entrusted with this data because they have done benchmark reports before. Also, 2 to 10 Project, Neil, Well, Aveda, Boulevard, and Zenoti are sponsors of this project. So please participate and advocate in upcoming dates. Man, we got a busy fall coming up here. I normally don't show this, and it's a little bit overwhelming, actually, but we got a lot of stuff going on. So we're going to be part of a conference this weekend in Las Vegas. I'm actually going to be doing 2 workshops at Energize conference. We got the 2 to 10 leadership retreat coming up. I think we're going to see some of the Luscious and Co team at that. That's coming up very soon. We have a couple school events, Axe and then Paul Mitchell. Also, I'm going to an awards celebration called Next coming up soon. We got the PBA Executive Summit. And then we have a family of workshops, Qnity signature workshops in November 18th and 19th between Salt Lake City and Austin, Texas. Profit and Growth will be at a Kevin Murphy facility. It is open to the public. It will have a lot of Kevin Murphy customers, but it is, again, open to the public. It's our Profit and Growth. And then Execution is going to be in Austin. And then right after the first of the year, we are part of Serious Business, and we're going to be doing a Succession Masterclass. I'm exhausted. All right, 2 to 10 is coming up. It's in Palm Springs this year. You have to qualify. You have to be invited if you've been invited. I think we're just about at capacity here. It is a retreat this year, so it's going to be a different format. I'm super excited about it. One last thing that I really want to mention is we do a complimentary 5-gap analysis. It's a way to really very quickly go through the different parts of your business where we see the biggest opportunities: profitability, execution, growth, engagement, leadership. So we have a very simple process, and it's a simple rating system. And based upon that, we can make some suggestions, we can provide some tools, et cetera. So if you'd like to do a gap analysis, let us know, and we'd be happy to work with you. Lightbulb moment this week, I'll keep it brief. We had a fourth quarter meeting with the team, and our team consists of Qnity employees as well as key contractors, coaches, et cetera. It was a great time to really go through the Qnity values. I don't really speak about them very much in our public forum, but I do think you probably should know what our core values are. And it really starts with impact, respect, of course, respect for each other, respect for different points of view, respect for everybody. Community, absolutely. I think, part of this forum really is truly about community. Integrity, for sure. And then opportunity, and then growth. We unapologetically appeal to growth-minded individuals and growth-minded companies. Qnity's name is a variation of unity, and in particular, it's the unity between being strong in profitability and strong in culture, using your head, using your heart. And then recently, I've talked a lot about the importance of unity between touch and technology. It's a hot topic for me. I was on a panel, I spoke about that in New York last week. So tech and touch is an area. By the way, one other thing about the word unity, it's a longer story about the Qnity name and how it relates, but I will say this: there's 5 letters in the English language that end with the word unity, and 2 of them fit in our core values. One is community, and the other one's opportunity. And that is really what I have for you today in terms of some of my light bulb moments. I have several other topics that I'm going to be exploring in the future as I am deeper into looking at the landscape of the professional beauty industry. There's some hidden trends and also some things that concern me that I'll save for future episodes. But for now, let's welcome to the mic and the screen, Jess and Wynonna and Will. How are you all today?
We're so good. Thanks for having us.
Always love having you guys. You don't really get to be a repeat guest unless your last edition was very well. And if we're not providing value, and you guys are an easy repeat guest to come back, all 3 of you. We love having you. You're always doing something innovative and cool. and you always have such a great way of explaining it. You threw this thing out to me the other day during our prep call. You talked about this day off certification. And I'm like, what the heck is a day off certification? And the more we unpacked it, the more I thought, wow, that really has some huge ancillary benefits to it. So anyway, we will get to that. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. But I think the first place to do is to create a level set. So um, uh, Jess, in just a couple sentences or few, just describe a little bit about Luscious and Co.
Well, Luscious and Co just celebrated its 10th birthday. And in the last 10 years, thank you so much. We have spent all of our time and energy collecting a culture of like-minded, amazing humans that are willing to put their entire day on the line to serve with excellence. And I think that Luscious over the last decade, we've grown drastically in team size. We've added a second location. We have learned a lot, but the one thing that sits true is we deliver with excellence. We know that the industry relies on the experience, and everything we do sits at the forefront of delivering that.
Perfect. And you are in Connecticut. And how many team members do you have then?
We have about 30
Yeah.
between two locations. We have a flagship location, which is about 6,000 square feet, which is like our hub. And then a second location, which is about 30 miles south of our flagship, that has 11 people within the walls there.
And I think people can go back to that episode, which I encourage they do, on January 30th, about the work you do with your partner and twin. But Wynonna, before we go on to Will, describe your role there, please.
That's a really loaded question. If there's something at Luscious that needs to be done, I can definitely do it or direct you to how to do it. I've been in the leadership role for the last 3+ years. I oversee both locations from a manager point of view, but I maintain most of my time in Shelton in the headquarters. And my main focus is really to drive that experience home, but also to really innovate behind the scenes to make sure everything's running as smoothly and as efficiently as possible. I have a lot of ideas that lead to procedures, that lead to mistakes, that lead to reinvention. So I would say the marriage between an operation and an experience.
Okay, great. And then Will,
Hey,
you
Tom.
are with Vish. I think many people are familiar with Vish, but just give us a quick synopsis of Vish, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vish really exists to make every drop of color profitable for the business. It's designed to kind of communicate with the front desk, back to the color bar, and back again to the front desk to ensure that every service that's being performed inside the salon is not only properly recorded and tracked, charged for, but also that it's done in the most efficient way possible from a formulation and dispensing point of view, and then also ensuring that the salon is optimizing its inventory by not over purchasing, and also by ensuring that it always has the materials it needs to perform services. So there's a lot to unpack there. It really plays into kind of all elements of the service business, but I think what I really love about what Luscious and Co has done with this technology is it doesn't see color profitability as an end in itself. It sees it as a means to a greater end for the salon, meaning we're taking the profits that we're making from our color bar, and then we're investing that back into our team to ensure that we can actually generate a stronger overall business. And so Vish, in that sense, really just becomes a tool for a much larger vision inside of how the business can grow and achieve its goals.
Jess, let's start out with, I think the best place to start out is probably the Gold Standard Academy. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's start there. Describe that to us, please.
At Luscious, we have a unique trajectory for new employees. We know that serving with excellence is the goal, but we know that newer stylists don't have that experience or programming already built into them. So we have a training process that takes newer stylists. We have a boot camp, which is totally separate from Gold Standard Academy, and we put them through a 12-week training to get them on the floor. It's very intense. It's a lot of hands-on. It's a lot of honesty. Not everyone makes it through, but once they do, we enroll them in the Gold Standard Academy. It's a 12-course series that goes anywhere from training on the selling of psychology and how, as stylists, we are natural salespeople, but also keeping your clients long-term for retention, and how to deliver an experience in a challenging situation, all the way to hands-on on advanced things like color corrections and advanced cutting. And that program is typically about a 12-course series that we take our newest employees that are on the floor through.
And is that 12 weeks, 12 courses?
Not necessarily. It depends on the series that we're in right now. We have 4 people that are going through it, and it has about a 6-month time frame. The 12-course series is very intense. That typically occurs outside of business hours, and it's a commitment-driven experience. So if you're new to Luscious, you go through boot camp, which is phase 1, and then once you're fully on the floor, you go through Gold Standard Academy to get you ready to deliver the gold standard experience throughout your long-term career.
Okay, that begs the question, what's the gold standard experience? But you said something that I wrote down. It's a nice play with words. Did you say commitment-driven experience?
Absolutely. We know that.
I want to let that one sit a little bit, you know.
Okay.
I mean, that's a really unique set of words. Commitment-driven experience. All right, unpack that for me.
Sure thing. Commitment driven is really just a way to know when you come to Luscious, you're typically coming for a career. You're not coming, straight from school to jump into a chair that you're not ready to have. It's kind of like buying a house and having a mortgage without a job. It doesn't make sense. We know that having a long-term sustainable career, commitment is the #1 ingredient into any healthy relationship. And to have a successful experience through the program, commitment is #1. It does take time. It takes a lot of honesty and vulnerability, a lot of reflection, to deliver the experience that sits at the forefront of our industry. It takes a tremendous commitment through all of those feelings.
Yeah, I did a prelude at the beginning talking a little bit about Qnity and who we like to work with, which is growth-minded individuals, And what you're saying is you like to, I'm sure, deal with growth-minded individuals, but you like to work with committed-minded, yeah. And fresh off some data that we collected, the industry that hasn't gone public yet, but we're showing very short job tenures at a given job, like in the neighborhood of like 3 years. So are you suggesting that this will extend the amount of time someone might stay at your company?
Absolutely. Stay within our company, stay within the industry. Growth is a huge part of what we do. And a lot of times, coming straight from school or from another salon, generating the culture of commitment lives in the success you feel, but also, an honesty piece, and getting to help clients, usually for most candidates, takes them a really long time. Commitment kind of sits within that, whether you got, your license from a 2-year program or an investment that you're still paying off. Commitment is the forefront in making sure that it feels healthy so that you can do this long term.
So Gold Standard Academy, commitment-driven experience, a structured program, not everybody makes it, etc. So how does Vish fit in all of this?
Vish has been with us for quite some time, probably 4 to 5 years. And for us, the easiest way to describe that is, to Will's point, it is a color bar tool, which seems the easiest way to explain it. But for us, it's a profitability tool. We know that the success of our business, especially in the last 10 years, the industry is changing very, very quickly. What we've decided, and we've learned through a lot of trial and error experiences, is that if the goal is to have a long-term sustainable career, we need to be profitable. And we've spent the last 10 years growing very quickly. 10 years doesn't seem like a quick time, but it sure does move fast and feel fast.
Yeah.
And the last decade we've spent growing as much as we could. Now our real focus is on going deeper, not further. And you can't do that without having tools that can enhance your profitability. So what we're looking at really, in 2025 and beyond, once we've kind of secured the 10-year window, is how do we go deeper, not further? And how can we grow profitability versus revenue? And, Will kind of spoke on this, but Vish gives us the ability to earn profit from our color bar, but then reinvest those seeds to build more profit.
Okay. Yeah, that's a leap. I'm a few things to unpack here. So profit versus revenue, as you well know, because we had you here going through our profit course, we talk about sales as vanity and profit as sanity. Next part of that, of course, is cash is king. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there gets a point in time where revenue growth starts to, without an intentional focus on profitability, it won't keep pace. So I want to get to the reinvestment because that was kind of a big leap there. I think we need to unpack reinvestment, but not yet. All right. So there's a few core metrics that you really work through, being more specific about the Vish system and how you implement it. And there's two or three of them that you pay attention to, and I'm sure it's part of the Gold Standard Academy is that they're driving. So it's what? Reweigh. It's kind of take us through the basics. And Will, we did do an episode, again, April 15th. If anyone wants to go deeper into this, we've got that recording too. But take us through the core metrics that you follow that are driven by, say, the Vish dashboard.
Sure thing. So we use Vish as a profit center. We use Vish in both locations 100% of the time. So it's kind of broken down by a few pieces. One is reweigh. Reweigh is just a way to make sure that what you're weighing and then using, you can go back to the scale to confirm what was left over. We know right now, perceived value is a tremendous focus within the industry, within our clients. And if we're using too much color, how does that appear on overall perceived value? So reweigh is a piece of that. And really, to sum it simply, it's just a way for us as owners and leaders to see what's leaving the color bar and then what's coming back. The second piece is what's the cost of the average bowl of color? What's the waste of the average bowl of color? And how does that break down into a percentage?
Okay. Keep going a little bit more on this one.
Sure thing. We also use Vish as kind of X-ray vision into training opportunities. How is ratio being used? Are you using too much color? Are you using too little color? When you talk about profitability, you can use Vish and their dashboard to view. I'll give you an example. If root color should cost $12, but the bowl on average is costing $20, the stylist is likely doing a full single process, but charging for a root color. So when it comes down to profitability, there are ways to reinvent and replant to, wait for future profits to come, but it's also a way to measure the performance behind the chair and the profitability that those stylists are doing day to day, especially when you have, 2 locations and 30 stylists. It's a lot to oversee that you're not constantly on the floor watching. We know that our team wants autonomy. They want to feel like leaders behind the chair. And using Vish as a measuring tool helps us deliver that, but also knowing that there's accountability behind that as well. Commitment is how we started this conversation, and Vish helps us back all of that up.
Do you get pushback from your team?
Not at this point, no. We've been using Vish for 4 or 5 years. It's a part of our culture. It's a part of our training program. It's a part of our, additional type of responsibilities that we can use Vish as a leveraging tool to have a leadership style mentality, whether that's working outside of business hours or taking guests that are double booked. We have to use Vish data to ensure that those style employees are ready for that level of responsibility, which in turn adds profitability.
All right. I'm dying to get to this day off certification, but not yet. Because we threw out that the profit piece that really comes as a result of the work with Vish and the Vish dashboard and the disciplines and your implementation. You kind of just jumped over reinvest. I think it's a significant point because it does come back to the gold standard academy, right?
Absolutely.
So may I simplify it? Did I hear from you that you're taking all or part of the incremental profitability that's coming from your color activities and segregating those funds to invest in this training program?
We are.
It's really cool. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, we have, so our color bar processes all of our color in both locations. And with the profits that come from Vish, we're able to fund our Gold Standard Academy, which, just to give you some hindsight, because it's a 12-course program, we have 4 people that are currently enrolled in that. Each of the courses generally are about $200 per attendee. And how can we invest in a training program that is for the elite? It is to get them ready to deliver an experience that most people in this industry aren't ready to deliver without having a lot of experience behind the chair. Trying to fund a project like that without having added profitability coming from another source would be very challenging. We'd have to take the money from somewhere else. So Vish has been able to fund that project, truthfully, just by mixing color from the color bar. It's something, color is a main part of our P&L, and it always will be. How can we use that business that's already here to fund additional projects that can then create more profitability?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in funds and, intentionally funding. There's a lot of talk about budgeting, and I'm a fan of budgeting, but I'm also a big fan of funds. Setting up, we teach it in our profit course, we teach it to individuals too, is the idea of taking a specified amount of money, creating a fund and using that fund for some purpose. Let me unpack. Did you say $200 per class per person?
Yes.
Okay. And is that your own internal cost then?
That's the average cost per class. They range depending on what we're teaching and who the educator is. We know that over the course of a 12 course project, that's typically the average cost between each of them over the span of the full 12-week program or 12-course program.
Well, I'm going to throw a little of my point of view in here. It's unsolicited, but I think you should change it to 13. 13 is actually a lucky number. It is what's called a number of beauty. 13 is a really cool number. I think you're missing. I've got an idea for course 13, so we'll save that one off.
All right.
All right. All right. What the heck is the day off certification? And what, let me set the stage here a little bit. How many hours are you open per week?
On average, about 36. We have a schedule that really adheres to work-life balance. What that means is we have a rotating schedule. Week 1, we're open 32 hours. Week 2, we're open about 36 hours. And we'll have 3 days off week 1, 2 days off week 2. So our team, who has, with a large staff, a variable age demographic, a lot of them want to make sure that they're home with their children to attend events. And week 2, that timing is balanced with an extra day. So on average, we're open about 36 hours per week, but that can fluctuate depending on if we're on week 1 or week 2.
Yeah, I mean, we're unpacking several little subcomponents of innovation here. What you're really addressing is in your overall schedule, you're addressing the needs of the workforce for that flexibility and low number of hours. Another thing that just came out of this, a study we just completed, is the low number of hours that are being worked per week. You're leaning into that and leaning into work-life balance, even in your operating hours. But, and maybe again, this is sort of teeing up the day off certification. That leaves a lot of hours during the week that guests might want to get in.
It sure does. And we also have to balance what goes behind funding a salon of our size and capacity. We have leaders on payroll, we have junior stylists or assistants on payroll, and funding 2 locations with that much support means that we want to be as profitable as possible and as booked as possible during our standard hours of operation, which also means for the days that we're closed, there are people on our team that have shown success in their leadership capability. They can deliver the experience, and they want to see guests that are full paying guests when we're not open. And
Okay.
we recognized that we needed a system in order to make that happen. We needed to have something on future forecasting for future leaders that could work towards that goal. But we needed a program in order to kind of set as the goal, right? We needed people to know, what do I need to do in order to earn the privilege to help full paying customers outside of standard business hours, which is how the day off certification program was born.
Yeah, it's a super, when I first heard about it, I thought, wow, that's super interesting idea. So how do you deal with guest demand, which is going to be various times during the week, early, late, days of the week, staff willingness, and then also business operations? And so if I understand this day off certification, which I think I do now, is you can dramatically expand the capacity of your business, but still keep those hours. Tell us more.
Absolutely. So our day off certification is looked at in 2 ways. Option 1 is we have a large staff of senior stylists that are experts in their field. Their wait list, because of their expertise, is pushed probably 6 to 8 weeks into the future. And we recognized that there was a demand for those style employees to see guests when there weren't fully staffed salons to support them. We used those people to launch the program because they were the most tenured, the most experienced, and they were already delivering the gold standard experience based off of what they were doing in their fields of expertise. So we started this program off by using them as added profitability tools where they could offer their guests sooner slots on days off, as little as 7 days into the future, where there's minimally no wait time in some situations. And they would pay an added premium to be seen sooner. Almost like the concept of, if you were to go to Disney World and spend an extra $150, you can skip the line on all of the rides and really enhance your experience and not have to wait in line. And that's how this program was born. It was seen where A, we need more time in the day where there simply isn't any more. And B, there are guests willing to pay to be seen sooner. But we needed to ensure that there was a system to support the facility, the operations, and most importantly, the culture of our business when there were no leaders in the building to support this mission happening. And we used a lot of data in order to figure out, A, does this work? We probably did this for about 6 months and it did work. We were able to grow in profitability because we were now booking in hours we typically were closed. And B, people were coming back. We also drove a demand for other stylists and saying, I'm at 50, 60% booking percentage. I need to open more hours. How can we do that? A, let's fill in time you already have available. So it's now incentivizing, let's work together to continue building your book. And once the demand reaches a point where there just simply isn't any more time, we now have a game plan in saying, what does your Vish look like? Are you independently formulating? Are you always increasing the perceived value? Are you on time with your appointments? Are you rebooking? Are you selling retail? all of these things that live at the center of profitability for most salons. We now have an opportunity for people to want to grow into another role without really growing into another role.
Yeah, you use one example in pricing like Disney pricing, but also a surge, a surge charge, whether it's Uber or something like that, is if we're going to go to the trouble to either be a peak time or family time, whatever, you're going to pay more price. And I'm going to put myself in the shoes of a client. I remember an event that I had to get into for a cleanup and I couldn't. And there was a blizzard going on. Well, that's a whole nother circumstance. Anyway, the point is, from a client standpoint, it's got to be huge. From a staff standpoint, they have to feel this sense of independence and this sense of trust too. Then Wynonna, so you're on the operations side. This would kind of freak me out if I'm an operations person at the very beginning, I mean, all the different things you do to ensure, for example, the Vish system is being used, cash controls, inventory controls, alarms, all that kind of stuff. It's got to be an operational maze to sort through, right?
Well, luckily I drew the map to the maze. So I drew the map in this maze. So when we see it as a business need, right? Demand at the door, hours that can be booked, opportunities for revenue, being able to say, okay, we've got all of these needs, how can we meet them? Is actually less scary than you think because of the systems that we have to operate during business hours and being able to train them and delegate them off and simplify the process. And having a process when we're open makes it really easy to transfer it when it's closed. And we often say gold standard, but the people who are operating off hours, if you will, are always exceeding gold standards. So that's the bar. And they've really passed the bar many times over that. While it may seem scary, it's not, because there is so much success in the experience of these providers that seeing it through is more fulfilling or rewarding than it is nerve-wracking.
Yeah. And then back to Vish. So that's one of the commitments and one of the requirements in the gold standard is that there is a high adherence to the metrics out of Vish, the reweigh percentage, waste, and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about how you always say money isn't the why, it's the how. In this instance, Vish isn't the why, it's the how we do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Created a fund out of profits on your color management system. Super interesting. Keeping a number of hours that you're publicly open, manageable for family life balance, for team, whatever, but at the same time, seizing the moment for clients and staff to get in when they want to get in.
It kind of, Tom, harkens back to what you were talking about at the start of the call, which is, that beautiful space between tech and touch, right? And we can only touch our guests and we can only provide the best experience for our teams when we have the systems that enable that, and the safety, but also the visibility that provides that transparency for everybody in the experience.
I got to get out to Luscious and Co one of these days. I mean, I just, the things you guys are doing are super unique. And how far outside of New York are you?
We would love to see you. We'll pick you up from the airport. Don't even worry about that. But we have 2 locations. Our newer location is 45 minutes from New York City.
Oh,
We are very easy to get to. Our second location is about 30 miles north from there.
Yeah. Will, have you been there?
You know what? I've not yet, but I'm totally willing to do a TKWS road trip.
I was going to say that, Will and Tom on the road. Yeah.
Well, you came pretty close that time. I saw you in New York and I was like, we'll pick you up.
Well, it's definitely on my list because
Yeah,
there's, everything Luscious and Co does is just a little bit different. It's a little bit deeper. And I think that truly I've told this team before that they should just teach a master class, because there's so many systems that are proprietary that I think we would all benefit from learning more about.
And
Thank
this
you,
isn't this is not an inside joke, but Jess, your twin is Liz, of course. And I've taken a little bit of naming you Lizica, which you've given me
Yep.
permission. But what's interesting is last time around, it was you and Liz. Liz does all the talking.
She does.
That was a twin agreement. You agreed as twins at a young age, but you're just as articulate as Liz. I think she might be losing her job.
I should have told you this on the last call, but after you said that, I started to put pieces together, and from a very early age, that's how our dynamic was created. I remember being, little kids, and they would say, "What's your names?" And she would just announce the name for both of us. And we kind of fell into that, and it's worked for 4 decades. So
Yeah. Wow. It's very cool. And then Wynonna, you're sort of the dyad of each of them, huh? I mean, you work closely with both Liz and Jessica. I'm just curious about lanes just for a moment here. Where do the lanes divide, Wynonna? So how do you spend time with each of the partners?
That's a really great question. I've had the pleasure of getting to travel in between both lanes. And, this year's focus, as we have a different one every year, I would say Jess is my success partner. A lot of the systems and processes that we implement, we strategize together. Jess looks at things a lot from the finance perspective, and then we partner on how to drill down a number or create a profit center. So her and I having strong operational roles and connection really helps us stay in this lane right now. But in past seasons, I've been in the lane, so to speak, with Liz, who really spearheads the human capital. So I've sat in a lot of interviews or hiring sessions, or even I onboard most of our team. So I get to float between both lanes, and depending on the project or the year's focus.
Yeah. I'm looking at the time here, but there's a couple other things I want to make sure that we cover. I'm glad you talked about the premium pricing for those day off. I mean, it was like 20% higher.
it is. Yep. And that was, for even a client perspective, if they were to work outside of their 40-hour work week, their employer would pay them overtime. And if you want to be seen at a premium time without having to wait, that premium charge covers A, the overtime aspect to the employee, but B, also the ability to be seen without having to essentially wait at all.
And then they have to be at what, 97% reway to qualify?
They sure do. Yep. Right now, I had mentioned this earlier, but Vish has just become part of our culture. We have the leaders on our team, all 3 of them focused heavily on reway because that's the starting point of having raw data or accurate data. So 97% is the minimum. Right now, I think our salon is probably at 98 or 99. So if you were to fall below that, we coach you to it as soon as it happens. They're pretty honest. They'll just come right up to us and say, "I forgot a bowl," and it's fine, no big deal. It's the awareness is so there that it's a part of what they do without us having to do much at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super, super interesting. I'm going to just take a look at the chat here. Anybody have any final words, or is there anything that we may have missed that you think our audience needs to hear more about?
I think for us, aside from Vish, whatever relationships you can gauge at this point in salon ownership or styling career, partnering with tools or companies or vendors that speak your language, that can grow wherever you are. Right now, our goal is to grow in profitability versus revenue, but that wasn't always our goal. And the relationships that we've really honed in on have been able to speak to whatever our mission was. Right now, profitability is the goal, and it will be probably for the foreseeable future. So how we can deliver excellence in what we do, all of the partnerships that we really have secured and maintain speak to that goal to help us grow.
Wynonna, any final words, or are you going to take a pass?
I think Jess does or did say it best in this case. We've really used Vish as a tool to curate a employee experience, but also a client experience. Consistency is key, and these connections are deep on all sides.
Yeah. Will, thanks for helping to bring this conversation to fruition. It's fascinating. Any final words from you?
You know what, Tom? Yes, I had a light bulb moment this morning that I'd like to briefly share. So this bulb here was actually given to me 2 years ago, almost to the day, when we were on a call in advance of 2 to 10 St. Pete. And we were talking about the devastation of Hurricane Ian in Fort Myers. And it occurred to me that, like, you know, it's no coincidence that we're seated here comfortably again 2 years later. And we're talking about not only another hurricane, but another hurricane right on the back of another extreme climate event. So I was reading this morning in the paper, and that, well, you know, on my phone, New York Times, and they were talking about compounding events. And I was thinking about everything that we've gone through as an industry over the last, say, 5 years, the fact that we've had a soft year, and we've talked on the previous call, we talked about how it's known, and we have the evidence to suggest that guests are stretching out their appointments more and more. So salons are going through this universally, but then salons in Florida are now having to deal with like very real physical extreme climate events in addition to financial and cultural storms. And it just kind of got me thinking, you know, when we're looking at 2025 and how we want to kind of, you know, set ourselves up for success in the year ahead, what can we do? What tools can we find that can help us to shore up our business so that when these compounding events occur, whether they are physical or whether they're, you know, human resource related, we have the best chance of weathering those storms. And I think that, again, kind of taking a page out of the Luscious book and just looking at these systems that they've built that will ensure long-term sustainable success, I think there's so much to that. And I think that, you know, obviously the work that Qnity is doing in kind of benchmarking where we're at as an industry is so critical. So I just hope that we will really continue to double down and bring these conversations to light so that whatever comes in the future, we're all in it together, and we have that brain trust kind of helping to guide us through it.
Yeah, words well spoken. Thank you, Will. I appreciate that. As everybody else does too. So let's everybody give them a virtual round of applause. Jess, you have another one of these coming. Will, you have another one coming. Wynonna, you're going to get your first. And we have a really great group today that's sitting in, including Bonnie, who I ran into recently. Bonnie, I have noticed you're on the call. I saw you put it right in your calendar when I saw you in New York, and here you are showing up. We just have some great people joining us today live, and I appreciate all of you, and I'm so glad that we're able to spend this time together. I love these sessions because it's innovation in action. I mean, these are really unique grassroots innovation. And for those current salon owners out there that take the time to subscribe to and be part of this, it's like, this is a really cool system. Oh, Liz had to weigh in, didn't she? So I see your sister and your business partner is sitting in, cheerleading you all. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much. We're going to have another episode next week. Again, give a big virtual round of applause for Jess, Wynonna, and Will. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks again, and all the best.